Thank you to the UUC Women's Group, our co-sponsors, for helping us to make these candidate forums work. And our thanks also go to North Shore TV, which is broadcasting this event and sending us a copy for posting on our YouTube website. My name is Regina Gouvenier. I'm president of the League of Women Voters for Port Washington and Manhasset. As you know, our local league, state, and national leagues do not permit partisanship. They are strictly non-partisan. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. Our mission is to engage you, the voters, by giving all candidates for a given office a public space to answer questions in a structured way while maintaining civil discourse. Thanks to all members of the League who've teamed up to make these forums successful, and thank you to the audience for taking time out of your busy night to come and attend these hearings. Our voter services work, which includes forums like this, voter registration, and more, is something that we really care about. And we also educate the voters and advocate with legislators on election reforms, the Equal Rights Amendment, protecting the environment, and healthcare reform. We only take positions after studying them extensively. We hope you'll consider joining our league, and remember, membership is open to all, men and women alike. Bella Wang, our moderator for this forum, is the arbiter of all decisions going forward. Know that there will be people walking through the aisles, league members, collecting questions. If you would like to submit a question, they have index cards and pens, and we'll collect them from you after you write them. You can also drop questions off at the table, but I know it's uncomfortable to get up and have to walk across other people who are, listening to the debate. So we'll make it as easy as possible for you all. Bella? Okay. Bella Wang, our moderator for the evening, is the arbiter on all questions that arise. Go for it. Oh, I'm sorry, Sandra. No, do it now before. Oh, yes. I'm sorry, Sandra. I'd like to introduce Sandra.
Sandra Frank, I can.
Okay, Sandra Frank from the UUC. Thank you. Let me get my board before we knock it over.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sandra Frank, and I'm here to welcome you on behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation at Shelter Rock Women's Group Board. We're pleased to sponsor this League of Women Voters in keeping with our Unitarian Universalist values and to provide the space for their candidate night. As a representative of UUCSR, we want to reiterate that we are asking you to comply with the League of Women Voters forum procedures. We especially want to point out number 11 on the forum procedures agreement that has been posted on the door, that there is absolutely no recording allowed by any of you present. The League has engaged professionals for recording purposes, and they are the only ones who will be allowed to record. In addition, all attendees are expected to act in a respectful manner. If not, you will be told to leave. This will be at the discretion of both the League and the congregation. Also, the forum will end should the audience be considered disruptive. I would like to thank you in advance for acting courteously and respectfully. And now turn this back over to Regina. Oh, to you, I'm sorry. This is Bella.
Hi. Thank you both to Sandra and Regina. So for over a century, the League of Women Voters has sought to make democracy work by holding events like this so that voters like you can hear the views and observe the behavior of candidates on a range of issues relevant to this community. This is why we ensure all candidates agree to the debate procedures. Further, by being here tonight, you as the audience have also agreed as noted on those very large posters that are over there and I think on the outside of the room. I will now read the rules out loud. The League has used procedures like these for over 60 years to ensure fair process and encourage civil discourse. So the rules are going to take about 3 minutes, so bear with me. First, the moderator will be a league member from outside of the district. That's me. I live in New York City. Second, candidate opening statements will be determined by drawing lots before in-person events. The same order is going to be for both opening and closing statements. So by agreement, Ms. Collins will speak first and Ms. Lurvey will speak last. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After all candidates have spoken, the moderator will open the meeting with questions from the audience. Cards, which have already been pointed out, will be handed out for written questions. These will be vetted prior to being asked so that duplicative, personal, abusive, or biased questions can be discarded. Fifth, the moderator, that's me, will be the arbiter of whether questions are appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. 6, each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes, so 90 seconds, to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for a response may be reduced as long as it is the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttal. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general, although all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question, even if it is addressed to a specific individual. Next, the moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. 8, a league member will act as timekeeper. 1/2 minute from the end of any given time period, the timekeeper will alert the speaker by a prearranged signal, which you can see right there. Still have the signs. When the time is up, which is a different sign, the speaker will be allowed to finish the sentence. Repeatedly speaking past the deadline, however, may result in a candidate losing time for a future question or for others getting additional time. 9, candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. 10, since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute speaker will be allowed to appear should a candidate be unable to attend in person. No written or recorded statement may be provided in lieu of active participation by a candidate. Using props, charts, visuals, or displaying campaign literature is also prohibited. Lastly, of the 11 rules, in accordance with league policy, the league owns the contents of its forums. Audio or video recording by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if agreed upon by all candidates present. The league maintains the right to record the forum and publish it on LWV-controlled electronic sites. No other recording will be allowed. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the league. Take a look around, see no one recording, it's good. As moderator, I will be the arbiters of all decisions during the debate. So, the league believes, finally, that the responsibility for maintaining good government rests on you, the voters, so we have the following expectations for you. First, please be sure your cell phones are off or silenced, and please do not block the door or camera. Second, your purpose is to hear from candidates, so let's focus on their voices, not yours. 3, please remain seated and silent during the Q&A unless you are writing or submitting question cards. Again, there's baskets, but also people will be walking up and down to take questions if you have them. As moderator, I will stop the debate if the audience interrupts. Interruptions reduce the time for candidates to speak, and we are here to listen to them. Fourth, to repeat, league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums. Taking clips or segments is not authorized. North Shore TV is broadcasting this forum, and the league will post it on our LWV of PWM YouTube channel long before the election. Lastly, any audience member who violates the agreed procedures for the forum or who disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations after being warned may ask to leave. So now we are going to hear from the 2 candidates vying to be your receiver of taxes for the next 4 years, Veronica Lurvey and Mary Jo Collins. When the candidates arrived, they drew straws for speaking order. Ms. Collins will be going first for opening remarks and for closing. Ms. Lurvey will be going second for opening remarks as well as for closing. I will now ask the candidates to give their opening statements and the audience to applaud briefly after those statements, but then to hold all applause and other responses until after the closing statements. Ms. Collins, please begin.
Thank you. Thank you for the League of Women Voters, Bella, Judy, Port Washington-Manhasset for hosting this candidate forum this evening and giving me the opportunity to introduce myself to the town of North Hempstead voters. At the end of the forum, I hope you will be clear on my qualifications and what distinguishes me from my opponent. First, I would like to share my background and experience, which will help you understand why I am the best choice for the receiver of taxes. I grew up as the oldest of 6 children. My father emigrated from Ireland. Neither had the opportunity to go to college, but they instilled in all of us a strong work ethic. My husband Sean and I have been married for 31 years, and we have 2 adult sons, Sean Jr., a CPA and a manager at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Matthew, a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, who is a Seahawk SH-60 pilot. I graduated with a BS from Douglas College, Rutgers University, and an MA from Teachers College, Columbia University. I worked as a teacher for 4 years before embarking on what was to become a 40-year career on Wall Street, which I recently retired from this past December. My roles in sales, trading, and management gave me valuable knowledge of risk management and credit analysis, 2 skills that will serve me well as a receiver of taxes. Currently, I serve as an independent trustee for a financial services firm that has $26 billion under management. As an independent trustee, we are charged with being a fiduciary for the shareholders. We ensure that management is in full compliance with all regulatory requirements. In essence, we are the watchdogs for the shareholders. I am also currently an elected trustee for the Village of Flower Hill, having served since 2020, along with Mayor Rosenbaum, who is here tonight, thank you, and my fellow trustees. We work collaboratively as a board to represent the interests of our constituents, to maintain and try to improve the quality of life in our village. I'm running for the job of receiver of taxes to serve, and so that I can give back to my community and the community I've been in for almost 30 years. My past financial experience, as well as my current corporate board role, give me the ability to approach the receiver role from a business perspective. My village trustee role enables me to always be mindful to put the taxpayer first. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Ms. Lurvey.
Thank you very much, and I'm not recording. I'm just putting in my time. So good evening, everyone. I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Veronica Lurvey, and I am a proud League member. For the past 4.5 years, I have served as a councilwoman on the town board. I was appointed to the seat in 2019 by former supervisor Judy Bosworth, and I was later elected to the position. It has been an honor to represent the residents of District 4. Every step of the way, I have done my best to listen to your concerns and address your needs. Because of redistricting, I can no longer run for my council seat, but there is much work to be done in government. My parents, who were immigrants from Czechoslovakia, instilled in me the values of hard work and commitment. In addition, through their own work at a variety of community and religious organizations, they nurtured in me a deep commitment to service for the public good. It would now be my honor to continue to serve you, the residents of the town of North Hempstead, as your receiver of taxes. As a receiver of taxes, I would apply my skills and governmental expertise to maintain the highest level of responsiveness and accountability, and perhaps most importantly, to keep your tax dollars safe. The role of the receiver of taxes is not glamorous, but it is one of great responsibility. It's about managing over $1 billion, ensuring that every taxpayer's contribution is applied properly, and it's about serving as a watchdog for the taxpayers. Our current receiver of taxes, Charlie Berman, has been a great role model, and we wish him all the best in his retirement. In my prior career, I was a project finance attorney at the law firm of Skadden Arps, Slate, Marr & Flom for 13 years. I worked on many high-profile corporate finance transactions involving millions and billions of dollars. One of the last transactions I worked on was a $15 billion restructuring, on which I was the leader, and I led the deal team of over 20 attorneys, negotiating with bank groups around the world. My legal work at Skadden Arps required a great deal of integrity and diligence and the careful oversight of other people's resources. I was accountable for every penny, and I will continue to be so as your receiver of taxes. Before serving on the town board, I held a variety of volunteer positions, working side by side with you. During my time as a councilwoman, my priorities have included constituent services, environmental sustainability, and fiscal responsibility. In the 3 minutes I have to give an introduction this evening, I can't cover all my initiatives and accomplishments as councilwoman. You can see those on my website. Ultimately, this election is about who has the skills, expertise, and know-how to get the job done. And ultimately, it is about serving the residents of the town of North Hempstead. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now begin with everyone's questions. As a reminder to the audience, please hold all of your applause until the end of the forum. We have assembled to hear from candidates, not from fellow citizens. The first question goes to Ms. Lurvey. Do you believe that there are ways to make the position of the receiver of taxes a more visible and valuable asset to the residents of the town of North Hempstead?
Yes, I do. I believe that the office of the receiver of taxes has to be made as accessible as possible to the residents of the town of North Hempstead. I think that it is up to the receiver of taxes to collaborate with the community to increase tax literacy and education among the residents. For example, there was a change recently in the low-income senior exemption threshold, and many residents did not know about it. And I think it's imperative that the receiver of taxes go out into the community to provide workshops, to provide education, and to make all of this information more accessible. I think there are other ways to improve the accessibility of the receiver of taxes office, such as expanded town hall meetings and workshops, as well as utilizing mobile tax collection units to visit different neighborhoods. I think that one issue with respect to accessibility is implementing language access. On my time in the town board, I have championed a language access policy that the town board approved several months ago. And this will make it easy for anybody who speaks any language. And we have a growing number of immigrants in the town of North Hempstead who might not be comfortable with English as a first language. And I will do the same in the receiver of taxes office.
Ms. Collins.
Thank you. I'm not going to address all of the points, but just one point for clarification. In terms of the senior exemption was raised from $38,000 to $58,000, and Supervisor DeSena, along with Rich Nicolello, who is retiring after 28 years as the county legislator, I believe championed that for the town of North Hempstead. My understanding is that the school districts had to opt into that exemption. And I do know for a fact that there are 5 school districts that either did not know or were not, or were not aware that their seniors were eligible for that exemption. One of those school districts is one of our current board members serves as the school board president. So not sure if the town council, how the town council realized that this exemption was going up and why this wasn't, taken care of in that council person's district. So that's all I'd like to add.
Thank you. Next question. Other than sending notices of taxes due and receiving payments, does the receiver of taxes have an advisory role in the town government? Does the receiver influence policy in any other way? One person asked, for instance, about property taxes. Ms. Collins.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry about that. Again, that's a great question, and thank you. It's clear that the receiver of taxes does not set policy. I know that, and I'm well aware of that. But as I have publicly stated, a receiver can work collaboratively and creatively with the supervisor and town board and can affect change that results in lower taxes. So drawing on my experience as in business and in finance, I would look to ways to increase efficiency in administrative systems on both the back and the front end of receiving and processing taxes, and work toward upgrading communications and technological interface, changes that can lead to lower taxes. As I recently stated when challenged by Veronica in her interview that I didn't understand the role of, that I didn't set policy, I stated that having spent 40 years in the complex world of financial services, I have employed collaborative and creative strategies to add value to the client. And in this case, the client is you, the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lurvey.
So the role of receiver of the taxes, as I see it, is multifold, right? It's receiving and distributing the taxes. It's calling out the mistakes of the Nassau County Assessor's Office and working collaboratively with the town attorney as well as the Nassau County offices of the assessor as well as the county executive to fix those mistakes. And it's also one of policy in making it one of the prime directives to be part in the community, to be educating the community, to make government as accessible as possible to the people who need that accessibility. It is about going out and making sure that seniors are able to pay their taxes, to pay them on time. It is going out there to make sure that residents in all parts of the town of North Hempstead, no matter which district, are able to come and go to office hours, in mobile office hours, and pay their taxes that way. And it's about making sure that when taxes are collected, that people have faith that they are being collected properly, that they are being distributed properly. Charlie Berman, in his years in office, has many times pointed out that there have been mistakes and he has worked to fix them. And I will continue to do that for the taxpayers of the town of North Hempstead.
Thank you. To continue on that theme, Ms. Lurvey, you speak, or multiple of you have spoken about making the tax office more accessible to all residents. Can you share details about how you plan to do this? And if you have in current roles, do you have any examples of how you've done this in your current role? Ms. Lurvey.
So I think I've already mentioned certain of the ways that I would make the tax office more accessible. One of the ways that I have not mentioned yet has to do with the way that people conduct business now, the way that people interact even with each other now, and that is through this thing right here, the smartphone. Very many people use it, I do myself, to pay bills, pay credit card bills. I get text alerts when my credit card is due so that I know that I have to pay it and not pay the penalty. Nobody wants to pay the penalty. I am grateful when I am alerted, and I think that we should work with the IT department of the town board and make sure that there is an app so that people can pay their taxes and get information about their taxes as easily as they get information and are able to pay anything else. I've already spoken about town hall meetings and workshops and going out into the community. I have already talked about collaborating with libraries and schools to increase tax literacy and education among our residents. I think we should also consider extended office hours, including nights and weekends. Many people work during regular office hours. By extending them nights and weekends and perhaps even offering a kiosk, which is something that I think would be very helpful, we would improve accessibility.
Ms. Collins.
So I would have to agree, some of these are not unique to Veronica or myself. The extended hours make sense. Certainly more online payment options, satellite offices, a mobile office. One of the people that I've spent time with is Janine Driscoll, who is the receiver of taxes for the town of Hempstead, of 1 million residents. Janine did 40 seminars last year, 20 grievance and about 20 assessment challenge workshops. So I think somewhere between the handful that we've been able to do and 40 is a magic number to be able to go out to the community. I think that it's great to say that everything's going to go online, but when you visit the multiple senior citizen groups that we have in the town of North Hempstead, they're not all online. And, how do we go out to help some of them that aren't? And how do we improve our communication with that constituency, which I think is very important. And I think the last thing I would say is, extended hours, mobile, drive-up windows, all of the Saturday hours extended, it's all great. But at the end of the day, it costs money. And we're going to have to be very budget conscious as we go forward and try to keep a lid on our spending. So I would look to, yes, institute ideas, but with an eye on what is the cost to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. How can we ensure that residents receive all of the tax exemptions that they're entitled to? Ms. Collins.
Just to expand, again, there are a number of tax, and it's amazing just even campaigning, going door to door. People don't realize there's a homeowner's exemption, home improvement exemption, there's obviously veterans exemption, there's exemption for firefighter, EMT, there's STAR, there's enhanced STAR, there's a senior citizen. The only way that we're going to be able to do that is to be able to make sure that our communication is reaching the people who deserve these exemptions, and that's by education. So I know that there's been something posted online from a couple of years ago about how to grieve your taxes that Charlie did, and it was quite good. That can be expanded upon. And so as I look at it, somebody coming in from a business perspective, background, and a fresh set of eyes, I would look at, okay, who are we not reaching? How can we reach them, and what's the best way to reach them? So that would be my suggestion as to how do we make sure that people are getting the exemptions that they're entitled to. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Lurvey.
So it's very interesting that you mentioned that, since both Ms. Collins and I have already pointed out that there were very many seniors and even school board members who were not aware of the senior low-income threshold change that Nassau County enacted not that long ago. These exemptions are Nassau County exemptions. These exemptions are very complicated. The amount of paperwork that goes into filing for one of these exemptions is immense. And I think that people need help with that. The grievances also. The process, why are so many people paying an outside company to do their grievance process? It's because it's complicated. I worked with Charlie Berman to bring a workshop on the grievance process to the Great Neck Chinese Association. We provided a translator. We translated the slides and all the information into Mandarin. I think that, doing that across the entire town, going into the communities where the seniors are, where the groups are that could use assistance in accessing these exemptions is a wonderful idea. I also started a newsletter for District 4 while I was in office, and I will continue to expand communication.
Thank you. Next, why are you better suited to the job of receiver of taxes than your opponents, Ms. Lurvey?
I think that one thing that distinguishes me from my opponent, based on what I have heard, I mean, we don't know each other intimately, but from what I have heard from other events and on her website, I think there are a couple of things that distinguish us. First, I have the legal expertise. I have been a corporate finance attorney for 13 years at Skadden Arps. During that time, I honed my legal expertise and my finance expertise, and a lot of what the receiver of taxes does is rooted in law. It's rooted in very complicated legal provisions that have to be interpreted. You have to work with the town attorney to determine how funds that have been, for example, miscollected, or dispersed the wrong way, how to get those funds back. how to craft perhaps legislation on the state level to allow for funds to be returned to the people to whom they were supposed to be returned in the first place. I also think that working in the community. I am an active listener in my role as a councilwoman. I have worked with the community for 4.5 years, and before that, as a volunteer in numerous community organizations. I listen.
Your time's up.
And I can finish my sentence.
Go ahead.
I thought you said we can finish our sentences.
If it's brief.
I can listen, and I can craft the responses and the solutions that the residents need.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thanks. I've already spoken about my experience and qualifications in my opening statement. My past and current experience will allow me to use my knowledge of monetary flows, risk management, and credit markets to best serve the residents of the town. I will bring a business perspective, as I've mentioned, to the role with a strong sense of responsibility to the taxpayers. For those of you in the audience or watching that have ever attended or viewed the town hall meetings that are now broadcast monthly, the first thing that comes to my mind is the word dysfunctional. I would work alongside and collaboratively across the aisle with Supervisor DeSena and the town board to get things done. I would just say, I don't let process paralyze me. I move through it constructively, and I look forward to doing that on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. With regard to responsibilities of the receiver of taxes, how many employees and contractors do you supervise? How are they organized, and what changes might you propose? Ms. Collins.
So again, I'm not in the office, so I haven't been able to look under the hood of the car, as it were, but my understanding is that there are 14 full-time and 6 part-time, something around that number. Don't hold me to that. Again, I'm not in the office day to day. You know, as a business person, again, I would come in, I would take stock of what I was inheriting in terms of how does every single person, you know, spend their day, what are their roles and responsibilities, what are their challenges, what are their 2 things they think they could do to make their role better. And it's all about evaluating what do you have, what do I have, and how can I make it better. So does that answer your question?
That's for the audience.
Just repeat the second part of the question again, I'm sorry.
Sure. Let me just open that back up again.
Something about the employees, right? About how many employees?
If there are any changes
Okay.
you propose.
You know, one of my roles in Wall Street, before 9/11 intervened, I was put in charge of 24 traders, and I was their trading manager, and this was our retail trading group. And my role was to manage the risk, as well as manage individually 24 different people that were responsible for different parts of the market. And I would say I did that successfully. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened and the world turned upside down and management went a different way post that. Thank you.
This is a long one, so bear with me. As receiver of taxes, you represent the whole town, not a political party. Do you feel, regardless of party control, that after the election, the township should put politics aside and work as a town as in the best interest of the people? What will you do to bring that about? I'm afraid I can't raise the rest of the question, but in general, how will you rise above partisanship? I'm sorry, I skipped your question, didn't I? Ms. Lurvey, my bad. I'll back up. The responsibilities of the receiver of taxes, how many employees and contractors would you supervise? How are they organized, and what changes would you propose?
Thank you so much. It's tough being in the spotlight here.
Too many cards, my bad.
So there are about 14 employees in the receiver of taxes office. And I am no stranger to managing large groups of employees and making sure that we get the job done. They are extremely professional employees. I have spoken with many of them. They take great pride in the work that they do, and I would endeavor to continue to make them proud of the Office of the Receiver of Taxes and the role that it plays in the town of North Hempstead. One of the main contracts that the Receiver of Taxes relies on is a contract that has to do with the software for the payment of taxes. And that's something that, needs to be negotiated on a regular basis. And, through my negotiation skills, I am sure that I can get the best deal that taxpayers can get, whether it's with respect to the security that is provided, the e-check fee that is charged, the credit card fee that is charged. All of that needs to be looked at again with a set of fresh eyes so that we are not paying too much. We already pay a lot in taxes, and nobody needs to be paying more in fees. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry again about the wobble. Let me read it again. As receiver of taxes, you represent the whole town, not a political party. Do you feel, regardless of party control, that the township can put politics aside and work as a town in the best interest of the people? And what would you do to bring that about, Ms. Lurvey?
So, absolutely. I believe that the town of North Hempstead, the residents here, deserve better than what is happening at Town Hall right now. I was, like I said, I served under Judy Bosworth for several years before serving under the current supervisor. Under Judy Bosworth, there was a conscious effort made to include everybody in discussions, to include everyone in negotiations, regardless of whether or not you were a Republican or a Democrat. Unfortunately, the case is not that way now. And I have repeatedly reached out. I will continue to repeatedly reach out because I figure every day is an opportunity to wipe the slate clean. Every day is an opportunity to do the best that we can for the town of North Hempstead. I think bipartisanship is what people in the town require. I also think that it is hard. And I think that people can't just say that they're bipartisan. They need to be able to walk the walk and do the hard work, make the phone calls, have the meetings. When there is a meeting and when comments are given, perhaps give some feedback. That is the kind of work that I always envisioned myself doing, and no matter who is in the supervisor's office, I will work with them collaboratively as long as they will do me the honor of working collaboratively with me.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
So when you think about the role of receiver of taxes, some people have said it hardly seems something that should be Republican or Democrat, but yet here we are. So, the way I look at it, and when I was asked to consider running for receiver of taxes, and I thought about it, and I did my research as to what the skills were, did I have the necessary knowledge, could I do it? I really wasn't thinking, since I'm a Republican, am I going to be the better receiver of taxes? I boil it down to, do my qualifications, my experience, my ability to work with people, does that make me the most qualified person to assume the role and to manage a group of people, motivate, and a group of people? I don't know. I question, my opponent saying willing to work collaboratively. I don't think that someone who holds a press conference to question something that the supervisor is well within her rights to do is necessarily the best way to handle an issue. And I would like to think that I'm able to reach out to people and let's find our common ground before it gets to the news, to a broadcast on town hall steps. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time, if any, have you spent speaking with your predecessor, Charlie Berman, and the tax office staff? And do you have any thoughts about what you might do differently or better than your predecessor, Ms. Collins?
So Charlie's a Democrat. Charlie has not met with me. He has endorsed Veronica, which is on her website. I have not spent time speaking with Charlie, but I have spent time with David Chang in his office in the Nassau County Treasurer's office. I have spent time with Elaine Phillips, who is our county controller. I have spent a considerable amount of time with Janine Driscoll, as I mentioned her before, and she's the receiver of taxes in the town of Hempstead. So to try to understand, and what I would bring is, what are the best practices? Jeff Privado is another person I have spoken with on the phone, I have not met with, but what are the best practices that these receiver of taxes, what's working in their district, in their towns? Let's not think about reinventing the wheel in some cases where it's not, it's not needed. There are things that they do from a communication standpoint, from a processing standpoint, that I'm certain that we would be able to incorporate, and I would be sure to try to incorporate with our taxpayers and our system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lurvey.
So my opponent, said Charlie is a Democrat. She hasn't met with him. I wonder, has she reached out to him? Instead, she's reached out to a whole bunch of Republicans. So this is where the bipartisanship comes in. If you were truly bipartisan, you would have attempted to reach out to Charlie, and you would have known that he is there for everybody. He is absolutely there for everybody. Everybody loves Charlie because he has been a receiver of taxes who has kept politics out of the receiver's office. And so I think that this is a prime example of how partisanship gets in the way of good results. I have spoken with Charlie. Yes, he has endorsed me. Yes, we have served together for several years, so I do have that advantage. And he has given me advice. But basically, 30 seconds. So he has, one of the things that he told me is that technology, I asked him about security and securing taxpayer dollars, securing taxpayer information. One of the pieces of advice he gave me was that the hackers are always out there trying to get you, and you have to stay ahead of them. Never sit back and think that you have done everything you can in terms of technology. Keep improving.
Thank you. To go to a more specific topic, the paper tax bill is confusing and unclear. What would you do to make the tax bill clear and understandable, Ms. Lurvey?
The paper tax bill is unclear and confusing. Is that what the question said?
Verbatim, yeah.
One thing that the paper tax bill really needs to make more prominent, I think it needs to differentiate where all of the money goes. I think it would be really helpful if when people got their tax bill, they knew exactly what portion was going to the library, what portion was going to their sewer district, what portion was going to Nassau County, what portion was going through every single different special district, so that they really knew where their tax dollars are going. I think that would be a great improvement to the paper tax bill. Because when I talk to people, very few realize that we, at the town of North Hempstead, the receiver's office, collects about $1.4 billion, but only about a tiny percentage of that is actually goes to the town budget. Everything else goes to Nassau County, school districts, all the different special districts, library districts. So the paper bill could be much more clear on that. I also think that people don't realize that they can sign up and get the bill electronically. They can get notifications electronically by email. That's something that should be made more prominent. They should be getting information on email and by text and any which way that we can that is really easily understandable.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thank you. So with the paper bill, for those of you who have looked at it, it is confusing. But there's a limit to what can be put on it, but certainly improvements could be made. I think what goes hand in hand with one of the suggestions about whether it's a assessment challenge workshop or exemption challenges, you know, just to even understand, there was an reassessment done 5 years ago that's been phased, 3 years ago, it's being phased in over 5 years. And so, you know, what is that assessment, what does that number mean? What does it add up to? And so when people look at it to try to understand what is the fair market value of their house versus, you know, what they could sell their house for, how is that determined? There are a lot of questions that I do believe could be answered with either an online, you know, frequently asked questions type of idea, or a pamphlet for those who aren't looking online, or workshops. So certainly room for improvement. Certainly there's school district and general taxes are different. There is a library breakdown, but I think there definitely would be room for improvement.
Thank you. Ms. Lurvey. Sorry, no, I'm good. Last question, which is kind of general for the room. So when thinking about the vision for your term in office, what do you envision and how will you know if you've succeeded? Ms. Collins.
That's a great question. Thank you. You know, I think about it, answering that with a story, but I only have a minute and a half. But when I think about what do I envision going into a role, giving it 110% or more. And the reality is that when I leave that office or leave that role, it's going to be in a better place than how I found it. Simple. You know, you go in, you work with people, what needs to be done, how can I do it to the best of my abilities, working collaboratively, using my business experience, and how can I improve what is already being done to leave something in a better spot than how you found it.
Thank you, Ms. Lurvey.
So if I were to be receiver of taxes, the legacy that I would like to leave is to have governed for 4 years in a stable way without controversy. Nobody wants a receiver of taxes office that has controversy. You want your money to be secure. You want your money to be safe. And that's actually why there are very strict restrictions on where the taxpayer funds can be invested. There are very limited instruments into which taxpayer funds can be invested. That's because it's so important that they not be used in a way that is irrational or that is too risky. So stable and without controversy is one thing. I would also like to know that I helped everyone who reached out to me. That is the way that I run my council office. I have an amazing legislative aide who makes sure that everything she does, every effort she makes is to help the constituent. And that is the way that I would continue to run the receiver of tax office, to make sure that every resident who calls with a question or a problem on their taxes, whether it's a town issue or a Nassau County issue, that they get the answer that they need. And I would be happy if I were able to achieve that.
Thank you. Now, before we take closing statements from the candidates, I would like to remind voters that Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th at your regular polling place. Early voting begins Saturday, October 28th and runs through Sunday, November 5th. During early voting, you can vote early at any of the 27 early polling sites in Nassau County. This forum is being broadcast by North Shore TV, which will rebroadcast it in the next weeks. A recording of this forum will also be available on the LWV of PWM YouTube channel within the week. So now on to the closing statements. Before that, please offer applause to both candidates for their willingness to answer your questions tonight together on the same stage. Ms. Collins, you're first.
Thank you. So to summarize, what are the four most important issues that I would focus on when elected and that I'd like to leave you with? I will work alongside Supervisor Jen DeSena and the town board to help cut taxes. I would make paying taxes more convenient and to offer more payment options, both mobile sites as well as extended hours, ideas that have been presented earlier. Present tax-reducing seminars to show taxpayers how to reduce their taxes through exemptions they are entitled to, as well as guiding them through the assessment process. And improve the receiver of taxes communication channels to homeowners to help avoid unnecessary late payment penalties. Currently, the town party faction fighting gets in the way of progress. I don't, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, I don't let process paralyze me. I move through it constructively. I will work with the supervisor and board to help evaluate the soundness of proposed investment of our funds and to make sure that they are carefully researched and we make educated decisions. On November 7th, you're going to have to decide who is the most qualified steward of your taxpayer money. I've tried to answer your questions and present myself as an experienced, hardworking, dedicated, and worthy of your trust. I hope I've done that, and I hope I can count on you on November 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Lurvey, would you begin your statement?
The role of the receiver of taxes, as I have said before, is not glamorous, but it's one of immense responsibility. It's about managing over $1 billion annually and ensuring that every taxpayer's contribution is used wisely and efficiently and serving as a watchdog for the taxpayers. You know, sometimes a watchdog has to call things out that somebody doesn't want to be called out. Sometimes a watchdog has to have a press conference to call attention to illegal actions in a department or in a elected office. I do not say I'm sorry for holding a press conference. It had to be done, and it had to be referred to the Attorney General's office. Throughout my time in public service, I've strived to embody the principles of integrity, fiscal responsibility, and unwavering effort. I've worked to make our town more transparent and accessible, more inclusive, and more responsible in managing taxpayer funds. As your potential receiver of taxes, I pledge to continue championing these principles. I have served everyone, Republican and Democrat alike. I have worked with everyone, Republican and Democrat alike. And I will work with any supervisor, as opposed to my opponent who has said multiple times that she will work with Supervisor DeSena. I pledge to work, of course I hope that John Kamen wins, he's on my party ticket, but I pledge to work with any supervisor who is in the office, not just the one in my party. So I think, as I have demonstrated tonight, my background as a corporate attorney equips me with the financial and legal skills needed to oversee the collection and disbursement of taxes responsibly. My experience as a town council member has honed my ability to connect with constituents and find solutions to their problems. My advocacy for transparency in government operations prepares me to manage public funds responsibly and speak out about mistakes. I would be honored to be your receiver of taxes. Thank you.
And I want to thank both of you, the candidates. The League appreciates your willingness to answer questions from voters thoughtfully and candidly and in civil discourse with your challenger. And we salute your commitment to serving your fellow citizens by running to serve in this race. So thank you again. I would also like to thank the women's group of the Unitary Universalist Congregation of Shelter Rock for co-sponsoring this forum, and to North Shore TV for broadcasting it. I also want to thank you, everyone in the audience, for your thoughtful questions, for spending the evening educating yourselves about both candidates, and your engagement with democracy. Voters like you keep our democracy thriving. Lastly, this forum for Town of North Hempstead Receiver of Taxes is now ended. The next forum will begin at 7:15 for Town Supervisor. There's still food. You'll probably hear a lot of the spiel again a second time in 20 minutes. Thank you.